Welcome back, WNST, Towson, Baltimore, and Baltimore positive. Nothing more positive than this guy. He gave me a ring in the middle of the pandemic on Sunday, and I'm out watching this and watching that and seeing all this stuff, and the NFL is conducting sort of business as usual as they get into free agency here, and Eric DeCosta making a move for Calais Campbell. This guy punted for a long, long time in the National Football League. Out of the Fighting Raiders of Loch Raven and Towson, it wasn't a teacher's college back then, but Towson University, and many, many years from the Philadelphia Stars and the Baltimore Stars and the Men of Parcell and Super Bowls. We welcome Sean Landeta back onto the program. And Sean, it's fascinating with the shutdown of sort of the world and everything that's going on that we're all taking seriously around here, certainly on behalf of my wife who's immune compromised and anyone who's elderly in our community. But the league is moving on with business, and some really, really big business happened on the league over the weekend with the CBA, and you called me, and we wanted to talk, and really a significant thing for all the players that we grew up with, loving here with the Colts and in the early days of the NFL, the 60s, 70s, and 80s, those players are going to get some more benefit. And I find that to be sort of a magnanimous thing all the way around for the current players. And I found the whole thing to be interesting, how quickly this thing came together, and they're getting the deal done.
It really is a great thing that they were able to do, the players and owners, to get the deal done a year before the CBA was set to expire. Usually these deals have always been 4 years or 5 years, but the last one they did was 10. And there was a lot of criticism for that, but a good thing about that was that in the last 10 years, the worth of the league went up by 50%. The worth of teams almost doubled. I mean, revenue just went through the roof because the league has been so successful. Now, as a result of that, now doing the CBA at this point, the players and former players were in a position to really benefit from that. And, both sides don't agree on everything. We understand that. And certainly the players that voted, the vote was very close. Almost as many players didn't want it that did, but it did pass. And the most important part of that for retired guys is the bump that they're going to get in their pensions. Every time a new deal is done, the old guys get a bump. When I say old guys, I mean the retired guys. But this.
How old is old? When you say the old guys, is there a delineation between Sean Landeta old and I'm trying to think, it's Lenny Moore old, right?
Well, there is in real life years, but as far as the NFL looks at you, the players that played before 1993, all the way back, their benefits weren't near the same as guys who played after 93. So as a result of this new CBA, guys like Lenny Moore and Tom Maddie and these guys that are still around, their pension checks that they're going to start to receive are going to be greatly increased as a result of this new deal. So, for guys like Bruce Laird, these guys have played a lot of years, and when they played, the benefits weren't great. It's a great day for them, and just so happy for all those guys that we grew up watching.
Well, what does it mean for a rank-and-file player, just a regular guy? I mean, you bring up Bruce Laird. He was a pretty good player and lasted a long time, but someone that played 4 or 5 years. I don't even throw names around from that era because I know so many players and so many departed players. We've lost Tony Linhart, but I still get to call Joe Ehrman. And, just people from that era, just a rank and file. You play 3 or 4 years in the league. You're a banged-up football player. You're in your 70s now. You had a whole life after selling insurance or doing whatever it is that you do, working a real job. What kind of benefits does that afford a 75-year-old man who played a couple years in the league?
Well, for those guys, once all the dust settles, you're talking about basically doubling their pension, which is tremendous. I mean, most of the time people don't get any kind of a raise or maybe a cost of living raise, but basically overnight as a result of this, those guys' pensions are basically going to be doubled, which for some people can be life-changing. And there's also a health credit benefit, of $50,000 that's going to be given to a lot of these players, to help them with other health costs. So, when you all add all that up and what that can mean on a monthly basis for the rest of these guys' lives. This one thing that happened yesterday is probably the most significant in the history of retired players. There's probably never been a day where retired NFL players gained more than they did yesterday. So, for all the retired guys, it's a great thing, but especially for the older guys, because they really deserve it.
Sean Landeta, not one of the older guys, but just an older guy at this point. We're all up on it. We're all in our 50s at this point. This lockdown and shutdown of the world and society, I mean, you're a longtime athlete, families of athletes and knowing athletes, and the shutdown of lacrosse, baseball, the part of guys like me and old guys like us that are just fans now that have a body clock about wanting a bracket to fill out right now, or the Masters or whatever it is. This is a very, very strange time, and I know you to be in great shape and active and all the things that you do. We can all still do that and run around and stay away from each other for a little while here. But this is certainly a life shock to anybody our age, something that like my dad told me about soup lines back in 1929,
No, absolutely. I mean, these really are uncharted waters. I mean, none of us alive, in our era can ever remember something like this. And, the people's attitude and, basically what they're made of will be tested. I mean, fortunately, the availability we have to information is amazing. It's the best it's ever been with the internet, with TV, with radio, being able to talk to people. I mean, everybody can be on the same page and know what's going on. So hopefully, and it seems like they are, most people will do their part in trying to help get on top of this thing and make the duration of it as short as possible. I mean, you think to yourself, as bad as it could get, maybe by the end of May or maybe by June or July, if there's a way that things can calm down and people can start getting back to normalcy. That would be a great thing if that could happen. Now, who knows if that's going to happen, but, all of us have a chance to do our part to make things better.
Sean Landeta is here. He's in many, many Hall of Fames, and I can brag on him and charity gigs that I see you out at that have all been sort of taken away here. And from bottom to top, from jobs and restaurants and where we are, charities are going to suffer throughout all of this. The strangest thing is, as we talk about the NFL, they're still doing business, right? Like this strangely might not affect the NFL as much as certainly it's already destroyed college sports for this part of the year, affected greatly baseball, basketball, hockey, literally every concert. I mean, Sean, I was pissed last week when they canceled the Pearl Jam tour. I thought that was going to be the biggest, most devastating thing that was going to happen. Now I can't get a roll of toilet paper, right? So, we're at a whole different level of what a pandemic response brings on and how people react to all of this. But the loss of all of this, the NFL might own the stage this week because they're the only ones in the news-making business.
No, I agree with you. When you look at when the season is and, where they are in their year, their calendar year, as far as them being able to conduct business, they may be the only sport and one of the only industries out there that, in a sense, won't pay the price that other people will. You mentioned that, free agency starting. This is all stuff that can be done, by phone, or things can be done by satellite. They can be done by so many different ways where it doesn't have to be shut down. And as far as the fans, millions of us at home now riding this thing out to be able to turn our TV on and follow all this stuff and see all this stuff. The fact that they didn't have to shut their operations down like the other sports did, you're exactly right. I mean, there will be more people paying attention to what's going on in the NFL just because it's stuff that's current and we can all see it from our homes, even though we're all kind of sequestered, trying to get past this virus.
Sean Landeta joining us here on the aftermath of the CBA and where we are with the NFL and free agency. How about Baltimore just as a football place, right? Where we're talking about these legendary players and what's happened to them, but how important football is here and the Lamar Jackson thing and even the Calais Campbell news over the weekend, that as sports fans, this might be the only normal thing we get is a couple of draft picks 6 weeks from now. Literally, right? Like that the fact that they can conduct business, there will be people upset about that, but I know for what I do for a living, being in the sports information industry for 30 years, and I don't stick to sports, Sean, so I anger everyone, right, left, red, blue, purple, everybody, orange. I anger them all by going to facts, but this is one of those sort of strange times where baseball taken away, lacrosse, all these things have been taken away. The football offseason may be the one thing that might be a little bit normal, that picking football players over the next couple of weeks. Now, there won't be combine or I should say pro days or all of that stuff. All the NFL college people always tell me we could pick tomorrow if we had to. Ozzie always said that we could pick tomorrow if we had to, you know? But the Ravens do this so well, and this is one of those fun things that this is a little piece of the soap opera we might still get to have for a couple of weeks, right?
No, I agree 100%. Just the fact that we'll be able to follow what's going on, and they'll be able to do so many things that the other sports can't do because of where they are in their calendar year is really a great thing. And as popular as the NFL is, we all know how popular it is. In a way, they may even get more popular just because of the fact that over the next couple months we can follow what they're doing in real time and have something to watch and something to root for and connect to. Because as you said, you take basketball and hockey and baseball and lacrosse and soccer, so many things away. What is there left to do or watch or be a part of if you love sports? Now, I think TV's done a great job of, putting on games and shows and things about the past that we can all watch, but nothing like in real time and what's going on currently. And the NFL is in a great situation because of that right now.
What are you doing with your days, man, other than showing up here and again for a good charity turn and telling some old football stories and hopefully get you into the Hall of Fame? But, we can move on to that topic. But for you, day-to-day, real life of Sean Landeta, what's going on in your world, dude?
Well, for the most part, I have a son that's 23, and, he has a few things he deals with on the spectrum of autism, but fortunately he's considered very high functioning. So the fact that he can drive and have a job and, he can pretty much do everything that, everyone else does, I'm thrilled about that, but I'm really right in his back pocket. My reason for living is his life being good. So, I'm around him at least 15, 20 days a month. The rest of the time, my wife and I try to stay busy. There's always 20 things to do every day. It's interesting. People say, what do you do? I said, well, officially I'm retired. I don't sit at home every day, but there's so many things every day to do in this world we live in. Spending my time around the New York area and Bucks County, PA, and in Florida in the wintertime, that there's almost never a day that there's nothing to do. So, between the events and appearances, spending time with my boy, and doing everything else, I try to get back to Baltimore every 2 or 3 months. Every time I go back, I just want to stay because I was born and raised there, and I loved growing up there. And, in fact, I'll probably be back in 2 weeks if the travel allows. But, that's enough to keep me busy, and hopefully that can continue.
The pride of the Towson State, then, Tigers, Sean Landeta, all these years in the football thing and reaching out to me. Hey, I'm glad you reached to me, man. I mean, that means the world to me. You're like, I got to tell you about the story, and here we go. And you called me on Sunday. We caught up, and God, it feels like a minute ago that I saw you. But I looked through our text. It was like 11 months ago that I saw you, but it feels like 5 minutes ago. I hope we see each other again soon. I know we used to see each other at Ed Block every year, and they've had to move Ed Block, and, just so many things this time of the year. We hope we get back to normal. And I know one thing we all have. We have an appreciation for, the real American normal lives that we've all led, right? When it's taken away from you, you appreciate it more. Everything about it. Even the Orioles' 100 losses, Sean, I appreciate them. I need them back, right?
Yeah, well, certainly we hope, that gets changed because I tell so many people how lucky I was to grow up in Baltimore, baseball was and is still my favorite sport, even though I played football. But, to grow up in Baltimore in the 60s and 70s and, and get into my 20s and the 80s and, tell people I got to go to 6 World Series and probably 10 or 12 playoffs and, grow up watching like basically an all-star team in the Baltimore Orioles. And the fact the last 20 years things haven't been good, a lot of people don't remember those days, but I certainly do, and we'll always cherish them.
Yeah, that's how we were built around here. Appreciate you, man. Always great to hear from you, even sometimes with errant texts. They lead to great conversations. Sean Landeta from the New York area through Bucks County and down to Florida. Stay safe out there, all right? Take care of yourself and your family.
Thank you, Nestor. You the same.
You got it. It sounds weird telling everybody stay safe because you always want them to be safe, and I guess that's my mom and me, right? Before you go out the door, stay safe, Drive particular, as my Aunt Clara would say. Nasty at WNST.net, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Snapchat, Instagram. In honor of Don Moeller and Baltimore Positive, I broke out my Dundalk Senior Class of 1985 pencil that I've been holding up on the webcam, trying to have some fun around here. Please take care of each other. Please take care of our local sponsors. Order some carryout. Stop by and see our friends at Pizza John's in Essex. Stop by and see our friends at Al Seafood in Essex and Fadley's and State Fair and any other sponsors ever sponsored us, quite frankly. Take care of yourself out there. Stay safe. We are WNST.net, AM 1570 at WNST Towson, Baltimore, and we never stop talking facts in Baltimore sports.